Good day, everyone across North America. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Solutions of America. And for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. For those of you who have been tuning in since early 2020, we'd like to welcome you back. We develop these webinars so that our customers, resellers, consultants, and integrators can stay informed and up to date on Sony's latest products and solutions, especially during this last year while many of us were not able to meet in person. In today's webinar, the third and final in our series entitled Reawakening Student Engagement, we'll take a deeper look at end to end Sony AV ecosystems and some of the key installs that have enabled better student outcomes. Before we start, a few items of housekeeping. As in all of our webinars, there'll be an opportunity for Q&A, so please submit your questions via the in-event meeting question panel. We'll post links to information referred to during the webinar in the chat panel, and we'll also post a link to our YouTube playlist where you can view all of our archived Test Tuesday webinars. Joining me today will be Chrissy Sarah, Senior Sales Engineer for the Central Zone here at Sony. I'll turn it over to Chrissy now and join you all back here later for Q&A.
Yahoo! Hello, everyone. I am so excited for our time together today. We are ending our 3-part series on higher ed AV needs and talking about, things we're looking forward to, things that the customer will need. And then today's part is definitely going to surface around our education AV needs meeting our actual product line. So I wanted to go ahead and show you what we're going to be working with. And last time I reviewed part 2, and I'm not going to review the previous webinar because I think that's how I ended up losing out on time. So if you want to check out part 2 to catch up, definitely feel free to do that after this webinar. We're going to dive into some really exciting case studies that our products have been into in the higher ed space, and we'll just kind of go from there. So that's what we're going to start with. Right away, let's dive into something that you're probably pretty familiar with by now, at least I hope so, and that is the different types of classroom environments, the hybrid and high flex learning, the flipped, small to medium-sized classrooms, and then basically elements of our product line can fit into those spaces and handle some of those tasks that you're required to meet with some type of technology. So lots of options. Let's go right into Bravia today. So ProBravia line is our distinct panel sizes from 32 to 100 inch. Hopefully some of this looks pretty familiar to you. And as far as displays goes, you want to look for that 24/7 operation, definitely our pro support and our advanced replacement program, and some of the really amazing features inside of the display for color reproduction and getting that, crisp image, that high contrast. I did a somewhat of a shootout the other day, and it just looked really awesome to see how those colors really come out and pop, especially when you're changing content or in an environment in EDU where you have PowerPoints and text and white and black contrast difference on text that really pops out in the display really well. So you're going to look for those types of things. Our Bravias have the system on a chip where basically things like applications, pro mode, a little bit of memory in there for some of the simple media players that can be played. And of course, the power operation, being able to use that pro mode to customize the treatment of the display for the design. So something that you are also probably familiar with at this point then is our digital signage providers. And we have a really neat alliance partner network that we use to pair with these Bravia displays in finding either software or hardware. And an example might be something like Play Digital, which I usually have up on my display behind me, but I didn't get a chance to set that up today for you. So something like that. And if you're in an AV EDU environment and a certain campus of yours that you're looking to provide a solution for has a digital signage provider that don't see on this list or that you need to get into compatibility with our program here, you can definitely email anyone from us from B2B and we'll connect you with the right department on that. But this website that I think someone's going to add into the chat for you allows you to just see what we're kind of working with. And we don't just say stamp of approval. We actually send them a Bravia display. They work with our system on a chip software in the Android 10 and all that, and they figure out how to make their application work well. They also send us back instructions on the best way how to navigate and set up and commission that, which we would then pass on to you. So it's a really great collaboration, and I enjoy working with the department in Sony that deals with that, as well as getting a chance to play around with some of the cool digital signage providers that do get that final stamp of approval. Something else that you'll see in our Bravia line is our TSI Touch collaboration as well. So our BZ40H series, which is what you're wanting to look at for some of that higher end, higher brightness display options in our series. So TSI Touch allows for that touch panel application. So basically, they create a bundle with our display in it, as well as their touch panel. Currently, they have the 55, 65, and 75 and 85 models with a touch, and then they're working on our 100-inch Bravia touch bundle, which is pretty exciting. So 10-point IR touch on that, including finger and gloved fingers, stylus or pens. And so some of the things that we're going to be talking about in these case studies, you can kind of see where not only these digital providers are going to be helpful, the digital signage providers, but our TSI Touch product bundle would play into that. And then going back to the original slide that was talking about the different sizes of our Bravia panels, pretty exciting stuff. So at any point, if you want to dive deeper into those Bravias, let's get a call together and I'll just go through everything. You can also go through the ProBravia Professional Knowledge Center, which pretty much has all the information that I'm going to would share with you in that. But what I could also do is show you how to navigate Pro Mode on my display behind me and all that kind of fun stuff. So getting that out of the way, let's dive right into the case study with our ProBravia panels here. And we are going to talk about specifically the UCF Bravia, University of Central Florida Bravia installation. So what you're looking at here is definitely a couple pictures and a couple pictures of displays. So they have over 120 Sony Bravia panels spread across into 4 buildings. And one of their particular examples that I wanted to point out, it's the one on the right, and that is basically their DPAC, or a common. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the word commons, but it's usually the building or the location where it's a common meeting ground. So they usually nickname it Commons. And in there, the students, when they arrive, are greeted with several 55-inch Bravias in basically these kind of breakout rooms. So essentially, they can come in the back over there, they can eat their lunch or their snacks or whatever, do their work with the power, but then they can go into a designated breakout room and study or collaborate with their other students on a project using the panel that's on the wall. They can plug in their laptops and display whatever's on their laptops right there for everybody to see, unplug, hand to their next student or friend, plug in that laptop, and continue on from there. So pretty neat collaborative environment. Definitely also in there, just to kind of do a shameless plug, is you could put something like a beamforming microphone as well, and maybe a PTZ camera if some of the students that are going to be involved in that collaboration effort are off campus or somewhere remote. So that's another idea there. But let's focus on the Bravias because that is the case study of choice today. So in this environment, I'm going to skip right to all the technical stuff. You guys can read about some of the other things, reasons why they chose it and whatever in the case study itself. But let's talk about how they would accomplish that actual plugging into the device and what would end up turning up on the display. What happens when they unplug that HDMI? So using Pro Mode, you would basically configure the different settings in Pro Mode to say, hey, when you sense an active signal in this HDMI port, go to the laptop, right? Turn on, get out of standby mode, go to laptop. When that active signal is disconnected, aka the student take the HDMI out of the laptop, that now is a dead signal, so to speak. And what does the Bravia display do after that? Well, it's going to go to either, in this example, it goes to a customized screensaver, so the pictures that you see on the wall. Another option is it can go to a application, a digital signage application, or a customized HTML application where you have somebody in a office area or admin office typing in campus information that can show up as well. So they're utilizing almost like a perfect example of how to use Pro Mode with our Bravia panels, using Wake on Sync, understanding which active signal to choose and to light up, and then what to do when you sense signal or when you sense signal disconnect. So pretty cool application here. Again, they utilize quite a lot of these throughout their campus. Another example was the UCF downtown campus. They put 22 of these 55-inch in there, as well as the 20 or so 65 inches. In that environment, I don't know if they use touchscreen, but they could have if they wanted to. And if they did, they would utilize that TSI Touch positioning. And I believe I had a picture back on that slide where it doesn't look like there's an extra layer of glass on the panel, but the way that they design that looks really unique. And I personally can't wait to see the 85-inch in person. Not sure when I'll be able to do that, but I heard it looks pretty awesome. Another thing that the UCF downtown campus did was utilize the power schedule feature in Pro Mode. So this says, hey, Mr. Display, I want you to turn on and turn off at a certain time. Of course, that's in addition to, while it's awake during the day, going to standby mode or going to another application when it does not sense signal anymore. But it also can have a separatized is a new word, option of, doing power scheduling or power management inside of that Pro Mode. So pretty exciting stuff there. Last but not least, in some of those other rooms in the UCF campus, they have the 75 and 85-inch being controlled through a Crestron environment. So pretty unique there. More information on that link that somebody's going to drop in the chat for you. So something pretty cool, or the description of the webinar. So something pretty cool too, with the idea of utilizing these different Bravia applications in a flex space like this, is that you're offering the students an additional operability of communicating with their students. And you're going to see a theme throughout today where we have to make these campuses attractive with technology so that the students want to come in and use the space, especially if there's an option for them to have a flexible environment where they can choose to come in or choose to stay home. So what are we giving them here in this environment? We're giving them the chance to have a better interactive course than just maybe back in the day getting on the cell phone and saying, trying to explain what they're trying to collaborate with together. They can actually just come into this space. Everybody can see the same screen and have a little bit of a learning environment right there, then and there. So pretty neat. Definitely go ahead and insert your questions for Bravia in the chat, and we'll tackle those during our time together in question and Q&A. Let's go ahead and move right into laser projectors. So laser projectors hopefully are becoming more of a standard, opposed to lamp. We'll see how it goes when I hear more from you guys. But basically, laser projector offers a lot of things as far as just color in general, and also maintenance, versus that lamp option, needing to spend more money on that. So our particular projector line, if you haven't heard of it already, is the 3 LCD projectors, or business projectors that we like to call it here, just to give us a separation between our SXRD projectors, which are our true 4K, beautiful big dogs that provide 4K in and 4K out. So our business projectors are 4K in and can downscale. They downscale out 1610. You also have the option for 16:9 and 720 if needed. We have 5,000 lumens to 1,300 lumen options. The terminals, we have quite a variety on all the different models. I can't say all of them right off the top of my head, but you can find them on our website. I can also send you some manuals or CAD drawings on those as well if you send me an email. Something about it, installation that I really like about our particular projectors is protocol emulation. If you don't have one that already is treated in our list, you can create a custom protocol as well. And that's going to save you a lot of time if you're decommissioning an old set of projectors and putting up another 100 Sony projectors. Also, with our projectors, we have one line that has a fixed, meaning installed and can't be changed out, not fixed lens, like some of my broadcast people want to think, in the smaller of the three options. We also have the 80 and 85, which I'm going to hit on here shortly. And that gives us interchangeable lenses. And then we have our even bigger line there, the 131 and the 91. And then we bump up to that SXRD line. So let me go ahead and dive right into those so you guys can see them. The 80 and 85 is our latest and greatest. They are quite the beauties. I like them a lot. I have seen them in person. Their color is beautiful. WUXGA on that, and then brightness and efficiency with installation flexibility. So what does all that mean? Nice fun words. Well, it's basically the smallest and lightest in our mid-range projector class. The 85 has an 8,000 lumen center, and our 80 has a 6,500 lumen center. Pretty nice bump up from that previous line, and then nice sweet spot in the middle between the 131, which is our 13,000. So reality creation and text is on these guys. Totally your option on if you want to run them or not. So I like to think of either of those two as the ability to just crisp up the edges around some of those pieces of content. So if you see, for instance, that text or PowerPoint or some kind of, typical teacher content, you'll see some kind of background, whether it's white or gray, and then a text. If you have reality text on, you can just crisp up those edges and bounce up that contrast a little bit. It's hard to explain, and you'll see that change. So if you have an environment where an instructor or the student base constantly complains about not being able to see the text on the screen, that might be a really good option for you. Reality creation, again, real-time signal processing, and just looking at all those colors and saying, hey, this is this color space. Let's push into those from some of our Sony algorithm pictures that we have and really give the best reds and the best blues and the best greens. So definitely really neat there. I already mentioned that it does take in 4K 60p, and everybody downscales to 1610 there, everybody meaning our BPJ line. And some other really neat things. I'm sure you've already heard about it. Let's get into the case study before we run out of time. So case study number 1 for projectors. I have 2 for you today. So this particular installation you're looking at is actually the University of Guelph in Ontario. They are using our projectors for their hybrid learning experiences. So you remember our hybrid or different types of learning environments. This particular one is a hybrid learning environment. So interoperability of the product line is really key for them. Also, something that they wanted was they want Sony ecosystem throughout all of their AV. They don't want to have to go to other units. They want everything in one family, which again, one key element in using Sony as an ecosystem is everybody is controllable through a GUI if needed, password protected. So you can go in there and find what you need if you want to run everything through a certain control computer, and then all of our various other control options. So let's stick here for more than 150 projectors here in this particular case study. They are actually utilizing different projectors in different rooms and for different reasons. So if anyone listening has had the experience of needing to outfit a room with projectors, not every room can take the same projector. You have to look at lumens. You also have to look at the screen size and how far the projector is going to be away from the screen. So if you're trying to utilize old projector mounts, then you might, or I should say existing, then you might need to look at different lensing options. You might have to bump up projectors. You could maybe bump down, all of those things to consider. This particular environment, they use the VPL PHZ10 and the VPL PHZ50 in some of those smaller spaces. And then some of the larger spaces, they would actually have 2 projectors, either the 90 or the 70, which in this current product line, we have the 91 and the 80. So if you can kind of imagine and apply those two to those larger rooms. Another thing about this case study that I really liked that was pointed out is that they need whatever they were going to go with to last at least 8 to 9 years. So they did not want to have to do a refurb, anytime soon. They needed whatever they were going to choose to last for a long time. And one key selling point in our projectors for this particular customer was the eco mode. So eco mode is really neat. If you turn it on, it basically is saying, it's listening, I guess is a kind of a word you could use for it, is their active signal. If not, go in standby. If the projector has active signal and it's been on for a certain amount of time, you can set in there and say, hey, if this goes past a certain amount of time, dim the light. So you can save on some of that power that's needed to make that bright, luminous output. You can also go in standby mode, and then you can also do remote start on that. So eco mode's pretty neat, and this was definitely a selling point for this particular client, and I'm happy that they get to utilize that feature. So I'm going to kind of merge one of our other products into this particular case study. I was thinking about breaking them up for you, but I figured for time's sake, I'm just going to slop them all together. And this university also deployed 60 of our Sony PTZ cameras all throughout their different lecture rooms, and both large and small. They particularly used the SRGX120, and with the zoom capability, they were able to accommodate all of those different room sizes with that single camera. So they were able to maintain the Sony ecosystem, as well as not needing to bounce to the X400. They were able to just keep the 120 across the board. So if you can imagine, commissioning 60 of these went pretty smoothly because they knew exactly what they needed to do and how to operate those cameras. Again, we have the ability to operate and commission those cameras from a web GUI. We also have the ability to control from the RMIP10 and RMIP500. And we also have network control and then an IR remote. So lots of options there. Something before I move out of this case study and into the next one is they had a specific need for in-person lecture rooms where they can live stream the content to the far end, but also accommodating people bringing in their own devices, so cell phones or tablets or laptops, etc. So similar to UCF with those breakout rooms, bringing in gear and plugging into the display. But this one was actually saying we need to also live stream out to whoever is going to receive it, right? So the Sony cameras definitely gave that option for interactivity. And in the end, that increased the engagement between everybody that was involved in the lecture. And I just think it was a really great job. So cool story with that guy. Let's go ahead and move right on to the next projector case. This is Minnesota State University, and I wrote in really light pink pens. So I'm going to just kind of move my little notes here so I can see my sparkly gel pens. So they have a student union ballroom, and something that's really unique about this space. I don't know if you can, I was hoping you guys could see it in the picture, but it looks like it may be coming on your end a little bit dark. So anyways, hopefully you can get the idea that this is a multifunctional public venue space. So they used one room instead of previous case study where they had multiple rooms. This is one room, and the need was to have fully surrounding video around the entire space. 10,000 square feet, that's a lot of space, that's a lot of screen. And they would use this venue, and still do, lectures, conference rooms, career and community expos, festivals, banquets, and wedding receptions. Wedding receptions, that is completely different than the EDU needs of the room. So needless to say, they really needed to make something work well here. And they went ahead and picked out the VPL FHZ90. And they used 17 of these for this operation. And a couple considerations for this that were needed. One particularly was the fact that they needed to be surrounded video. So they wanted to have areas of the room that they could use for, say, the wedding venue side of it, and then the all the video around the whole room was lit, or they would break up the room and have different spaces for different events. And there was, you know, they could blend two together to get that extra resolution, or they could have a single 19 by 20 or 1920 by 1200 or 1080 section for a different lecture, and so on. So with 17 projectors, I think I did the math earlier for you. So they could have 17 individual 1920 by 1080 display screens, or they could blend the two and do 6 3840 by 1080 screens. There are also options to do 3 together with 5760 by 1080. So clearly here was that 16:9, that 1080 option. So yeah, pretty neat. They were able to combine one single room with a lot of space, yet still giving that high quality video. I don't know if you can also tell from the pictures. I'm hoping you can. On the left there, there's a lot of that lighting in that circular dome, as well as, which I'm sure throughout the events, the different types of events, they would have different types of lighting. So they went with as much lumens as they could at the time. And I was pretty happy to see that they really thought through this process with adding in the number of projectors to accommodate for not only the size of the room, but also the brightness. So kudos to this install and how that went. Let's go ahead and move on to Crystal LED. So Crystal LED is definitely, we've been spending the last couple months being pretty aggressive in getting our offering out there, and we're excited for some of the upcoming installations that are currently in the works. And of course, after that, there'll be quite a few more case studies to discuss. I do want to just hit some high points here of some of the features of our Crystal LED. And of course, at any point, I am interested in hearing from you what your needs are in the education space. So I actually was talking with a university friend today about how they wanted to try to find the pre-existing LED that's on their campus, and if they could turn that into a VR space. Well, something with VR that you need to understand is that you need that fine pixel pitch, so that when you do have a camera shooting it, you have a camera shooting the talent, the walls behind it, and that depth of focus can be nice and clean, and you don't have to be seeing any pixels from that. So our pixel pitch on that topic then is 1.2 and 1.5 pixel pitch, which you can kind of set your feet at about 6 feet away from the wall, or I should say the display. So definitely keep that in mind. We have 2 versions, contrast and brightness. Typically, the brightness version is what's selected for those virtual education environments because of the studio lighting. You want to make sure it doesn't cause too many reflectivity shapes on the display. And then contrast is just, hopefully you know what contrast is by now. It just has that dark matte pixelation behind each diode, so it looks really crisp and clean. A couple questions I always get, so I'm just going to throw them out there to you, and that is that yes, the cabinets can be aligned in a curved formation, but they do not curve themselves. So don't think like a dome, like the cabinet itself and all of electronics can curve. The cabinet itself can be placed in a curved manner. It is front serviceable once you get it up and running. And then we do have the mount manufacturers already having mount app options available. So you don't have to wait for them to design a mount to fit your space. So what I do want to talk about briefly, I tried to get some more information about this particular installation that's up and coming. I actually think it's in the works, or if not already almost completed. And this is Sony Corporation of America is actually donating product to the International African American Museum in Gadsden Wharf in Charleston, South Carolina. I hope I get a chance to see this in real life. And what is going to go in there is a 32-foot by 7-foot high crystal LED wall, and that would be 7680 by 1620 resolution. And they have a designated content person for that wall, meaning their own content person that's going to really bring to life some of the what do you call that when museums display certain things? Exhibits. Thank you. Exhibits is going to add that element to what they're going to show in that museum. Some other things that they're doing in this space is the VPL GTZ 380. That's one of our top flagship 4K projector, the big dog I was telling you about, 10,000 lumens SXRD laser, and I could definitely speak a lot on that. I enjoy that projector. I was able to actually see it in real life and install the lens and see it lit up at one point, and it was really beautiful. The 131 L, which means the L at the end means that you need to get the lens with it, and that they're getting a white version, 13,000 lumens WUGX, as you know. And then our Bravias, they're getting a variety of 55, 65, 75, and 85. So if you're in South Carolina, ask them if we're completed, or give us a ring and see if we're completed with that install, so that you can see some of our stuff in there right in your backyard. They will also have some beamforming microphones for that. I don't have time to talk about some crystal LED brainstorm case study options for you, but I will definitely take some time with you if you want to reach out to talk about how LED, direct view LED, can really boost the interactivity and the engagement in your education space. And I'm going to go ahead and move right on to our remote cameras, because I have quite a few things I want to point out there before we move to our beamforming discussion. So our remote cameras, hopefully you've already pretty familiar with our offering. If not, there's a couple things you want to consider, and it's all in the name. PTZ Remote Network Camera. So all of those things are conducive to finding what fits your need. So we have quite the few options. If I say quite the few anymore, let me know. Quite the few. So the first one is, these can be 4K. So right out of the box, they're 1920 by 1080, but you can upgrade them with the 4K license. And the PTZ pan tilt zoom motor is very quiet, very smooth. I just did a demo somewhere a couple days ago, and I was loving how I didn't even have to say it. The customer said, wow, I can't even hear the camera move, and we were standing right next to it. So it was very cool. I appreciated that feedback from them. While in that motion as well, it's clean and it's smooth. So there's no jittering. The only jittering that you would be getting is if you're dismounted incorrectly. And if anybody is receiving any jittering, definitely reach out to us so we can see what might be going on there. I know there is a new firmwares coming out soon for those. So if you are mounted properly, or if you're anywhere near an HVAC, we might want to recommend a suggestion where you get a mount that doesn't move with the HVAC, so you don't have to rely so heavily on the motors. Some other options with our network cameras, again, the fact that they are network controllable, right? So they are varying PoE plus options. You can also connect NDI HX through NewTek if you wish to use that using our cameras. They can also be mounted upside down. And some quick differences between the SRG and BRC line, which you'll see pop up in some conversations, is Genlock versus Tally. So our BRC has Genlock and Tally, our SRG does not. Last but not least, I already mentioned this before, but the RMI P10 and the RMI P500 are these little control boxes that are pretty powerful if you do need buttons and joysticks. Okay, let's go ahead and talk real quick briefly about some of the brainstorms. So PTZ camera case study examples, I already talked about one of them a couple minutes ago. I am going to talk about another here with our Edge. And I just want to kind of point out again a couple things. The SRGX400 versus the SRGX120, it's in the name. So 400 is 20 times built-in lens, but a 40 times HD zoom capability. So SRGX4D0. And it's responsive autofocus is pretty neat. I was seeing that also in that other demo I mentioned. It also has a high, fast zoom. You can do slow or high, or I guess fast. And then it can go from presets, where you have something wide and then you preset it to go with a real close-up or a bust shot, you'll see that that's very quick and it's not too distracting or, for me, getting me too vertigo-y. The SRGX120 is then, again, in the name, 12x built-in lens with a wide shooting angle, so about 70 degrees on that. And both offer the sensitivity and combine the flexible commissioning system operation as well. So two things to consider when you're considering either PTZ or our box cameras, and that is the framing, the desired framing. I have this conversation a lot with our Edge unit where they're like, well, how do I know what camera I want versus how far to put it away from the presenter? What is your far end framing? What do you want on the end that the students or the receiving end is actually seeing? In this case, it's kind of like I'm a little bit of a bust shot. Maybe if I stood up a little bit, I'd be a little bit more in that middle third, and also in the bust shot option, kind of waist to a little bit of head shot. So if I want that shot on the far end, how far can I put that camera? Well, it depends on your building, and it also depends on how high level you are with the speaker. So with that tilt degree, from, I believe, so if it's 180, we are 90-degree tilt, so we can go straight down all the way to the top of the camera, which if it's facing normal size, I'm pointing my SRG over here, if it's normal, I guess portrait mode, then it would just hit the bottom of it. And then how can I gather that? So in a house of worship environment, I always consider people having a middle singer, and then they always have backup singers, and they always have the bass player, right? So do they want a bust shot of the singer the whole time? I don't know. They probably want to be a little bit of a wide shot. So consider the far end framing option. And here's a note on that. Your customer has a subconscious idea about what they want on the far end, but they don't know how to tell you. So you have to do a little bit of, or they might not know how to tell you. So you might have to do a little bit of digging on if they think what a good, solid educational experience is going to look like is bust or wide shot. Okay, bunny trail. Far end receiving, streaming, or sending into, or if it's all staying fixed inside the campus, you have both of those options with the network cameras. Let's move on. Edge. One of my favorite devices to talk about. I could sit here for the whole hour on Edge. I believe Kiana Pompa just did a fantastic webinar with Rave. So definitely, if you haven't had a chance to check that out, go please listen to Kiana. She is really good at discussing this and brainstorming some really neat ideas to do with Edge. If you haven't heard about Edge, consider it a AI-based video analytics brain for the camera. There are 5 features that it can use. One is PTZ auto tracking. One is handwriting extraction. The other is chroma keyless CG overlay. The other is focus area cropping. And the last but not least is close-up by gesture. All 5 of those features add a huge amount of interactivity to the I don't want to say show, but the installation that you're looking for as far as students in an education environment. It helps things be less boring. Let's just be real. If they're going to be sitting in an hour and a half or 3-hour course on, I don't know, insert something that possibly might be boring, it would be really helpful to have something that's going to lighten up their receiving end video, right? So with Edge, we have chroma keyless CG overlay. It can paint the presenter in a broadcast environment. It can paint them in a lab or a jungle or something pretty cool. So that is definitely an option. If you want to see that in real life, we can schedule a virtual demo, and I'd love to show it to you. Let's talk about a case study while I still have you guys. So a case study in particularly would be University of Central Missouri, and they want a very cost-conscious solution here. So what you have is there in the picture is the Edge, and then one of the cameras that they use, which is the SRGX120. They're a public institution focused on high quality education, which I believe all of you are focused on high quality education. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. They've transformed their educational environment utilizing this Edge device. So how did they do that? Well, first, they're using 30 Edge devices in the different rooms, and they plan to implement another 14 systems And the reason why I positioned these two pictures here is I have my Sony PTZ auto tracking camera next to my Edge, because if they're going to use the auto tracking, you do need that Sony camera for that one license, which is the PTZ auto tracking. If you're going to use any of the other licenses, you can use a third-party camera, which is fine. So I'm really happy to hear that this customer went with the recommendation to utilize the Sony PTZ cameras for the PTZ auto tracking. And then if they do want to utilize the other license like handwriting, they already have the quality of a Sony camera, so it's perfect. It gets to stay in the family. So the Edge here in this environment, it serves as a virtual camera operator. So for instance, if I didn't have an Edge and I had a camera, I'd have to have an operator, whether it's an operator at the RMI P500 or if it's a stick operator who's actually on a joystick moving the robotic camera around. So this environment removes the need for that extra cost, and the virtual camera operator task is being complete by this brain. So basically what we're seeing here is the tracking. They are recognizing that the tracking is very smooth. They're also recognizing that it's easier to teach the topic in a hybrid environment because they're not having to go above and beyond or break class to talk to the gear or talk to the person running a camera who's not there anymore, which is great. And then also in this environment, they did use handwriting extraction, which already I'm actually walking into a few virtual Edge demos right after this webinar. And I'm pretty excited to show that handwriting extraction because it leverages the AR of the system to make sure all the words, notes, and sketches and diagrams and all the stuff that the presenters are putting on the wider blackboard is in full view as that digital overlay on the far end. So pretty neat. I could seriously talk about that all day. I love it so much, being a fellow teacher myself. This campus also does use the Chroma Key CG overlay, where they are utilizing that background image change. They can put video in that background as well for an instant backdrop, and they don't have to change their physical office space or teaching space to accommodate for the Edge to work for the Chroma Key CG overlay. So if you want more information on that, definitely let me know. I don't have time for this next one, so I'm going to go ahead and move right into our beamforming audio option, which is our beamforming MASA 100. So hopefully y'all have heard of this one before. Basically, what I like to think about this one is it's an ecosystem closer. So after everybody usually always is like, oh my gosh, video, how are we going to get video? Da, 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 da. Once they've settled that, then they're like, okay, wait, how are we actually going to get the lecture now? And sometimes the university already comes with a pre-existing system, which you can just plug and play and go. Or you do want to go ahead and upgrade that. And here is a way to do that. That's utilizing this beamforming microphone. It's a Dante device, channels 1 and 2. One for voice lift, one for audience recording. The first channel for voice lift, you want at least a 10-foot balloon, so to speak, smacked up on the center of that microphone, and that's where you want your talker to be in that range. You also do not want the talker's mouth to be any further than 13 feet away from the microphone. And again, that's specs just for channel 1. Channel 2, 23 feet distance can be mouths to mic. So fantastic option for some of these options that you might need. PoE and network controlled. I'm going to go ahead and talk about one of my 2 case studies I have for you, and then I'm going to throw it back over to John for some of your questions that I can't wait to hear. So hopefully there's some good ones. University of North Carolina, Greensboro. So UNCG uses a high flex room environment, as you can see in the pictures. I should have probably cropped these a little bit more for you so you can actually see the microphone in the ceiling here. But the microphone can be mounted to a 2 or 4 gang box right up on that tile. It does stick down a little bit, so you can get a little ring to kind of make it less sticky outy. That's not the word I want to use. There's another word I want to use, but I don't know what it is. Protruding. So this university installed 16 of these microphones across their campus, and they are thrilled with the quality on the far end that's given. It serves so many purposes of getting microphones in the ceiling. no need for the instructors to have to, open drawers and find batteries and find lav mics and, find a handheld and all that stuff. They don't have to keep track of gear. They can just talk. Once they turn the room on with that Crestron control or Extron control or whatever control device you guys plan to use, they press that button, boom, microphone's ready to go. Very easy to set up. It needs this particular environment needed to standardize not only the commissioning time, but also the gear used. So they went ahead and said, let's put all this together and make this happen with a Sony ecosystem, integrate it pretty quickly, make sure that the audio on both ends is clear and ready to work, utilizing several features of the beamforming microphone, like the feedback reducer, the ambient beamforming options for those beams. They are not steerable. Keep that in mind. This is a nice, simple beamforming microphone to slap up on the ceiling and finish that ecosystem circle. I also have one in my office. I'm not using it today, but I can set up a demo for you with my audio so you can hear it on the far end yourself. Last but not least, before I hand it over to John, is some of those other features in that beamforming microphone is the noise reducer and the equalizer and the feedback reducer. I had a great question last week about this guy and what is the difference between those features between channel 1 and 2. So channel 1 has feedback reducer, noise gate, and auto gain control. Channel 2 has noise gate and auto gain control. So that's why we're able to kind of, if a student is messing with their papers or they drop a notebook on the table, it would eliminate some of those high impact sounds coming through on that recording channel. So hopefully some of this was really helpful information for you. I love talking about case studies. If you have Sony product in your university or you're considering it, please reach out. I would love to consider your environment for a case study to talk about, as well as getting to know how you use their products. That would be really great. So thanks. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Chrissy. Great job of pulling everything together here in the last session. Love the fact that you took us from one end of the ecosystem to the other, and there are a number of questions. So let me jump in and take a look here at the first question. And I actually, I think I might take this one on myself. So Kenny asks about education warranty and the expected hours on a projector laser unit. So, Kenny, we don't have a warranty specific to the education space. Our warranty is comprehensive and applies to all applications within the terms and conditions of the warranty itself. But as far as the life of the laser, we are quoting 20,000 hours to half brightness. We don't actually give a specification on the overall lifetime spec, but again, we do spec or quote 20,000 hours of the laser light engine to half brightness. So hopefully that answers your question, Kenny. And then Chrissy, we do have a question from Anthony. And Anthony's asking about the difference between the PHZ60 and the FHZ80 projector. Can you take that one?
I can to a certain extent, just because I don't have the specs in my brain yet. However, first would be the 60 has I hate using the word fixed lens because I need to come up with a new word. Fixed lens in my broadcast brain means that it does not zoom. Or it can't shift or anything like that. That's not what I mean. It just means that the 60 has an already installed lens that can't be interchanged. It does have manual focus. It does have lens shift. I believe it can zoom in a little bit, but it's definitely just meant to hang quickly. So that is more of where our lens option is on our 60, and then our 80 does have interchangeable lenses. So a lot more options there. Another thing is the lumens. So the 60 is going to be a little bit less. I believe it's at 5,000, but don't quote me on that. And then the 80, 85 is definitely up in that 6,500 range and up to that 8,000 center lumen range for the 85. So those are two definite differences between them, which are the ones I use the most in my demos. Anything past that, I'd have to get back to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, and Kenny did specifically ask about the brightness. So thanks for addressing that, Chrissy, as well. Let's see. Terry had a question. She wanted to know where she can get more detailed information on the ProBravia flat panel displays.
Yes, I thank you for that question. Even probably more information than I can give you in the given time that I would ever have to talk to you about ProBravia, ProBravia Knowledge Center. I think somebody can put that link somewhere. Um, Definitely get in there. You'll find not only firmware updates, CAD drawings, technical specification differences. You'll see developer option guides. You'll see serial pinout schematics. I mean, everything that you would need to know about ProBravia is in ProBravia Knowledge Center. If you can't find something in there, definitely reach out to me and we can sort out where those answers might be. But yes, definitely head there first. Great resource for us. Thank you.
Excellent. Question from Luann. She's asking, are there any LED, or I'm sorry, crystal LED, CLED reference sites that that they
Oh,
could
right.
either take a client to or go see crystal LED in person?
Yes, I get that asked a lot, and I believe the list is beginning to grow. The thing that we want to make sure with those is that, for one, with COVID protocols, that there are people allowed on site, but also that we would want to make an introduction to you, so that we do have, or to you in the university. So definitely, there are some that you can go and visit. Reach out to me, and I can connect you to the right person to get that site visit um, scheduled, or at least the introduction made for you to go see it. Also, I believe we are, maybe John, you know this answer. I believe we're putting a crystal LED in one of our demo sites in California, maybe? Is that true still?
I think we're actually looking at both California and possibly a location on the East Coast as well.
Sweet.
I would recommend that whether you're with a systems integrator, a reseller, or if you're at a university, reach out to your local Sony account manager, your regional account manager, and they can help to facilitate either a visit to one of the locations. We can, we've got trade show season finally approaching us, and I know there's going to be a wall at NAB. There's going to be a wall at Infocom as well, and we can set up some demonstration times at either of those two locations. And we've also got some traveling systems, some traveling demo systems that are relatively small, 110-inch, but still you get the full impact and you can see both the performance and the quality of crystal LED as well. So a number of different possibilities there. And as I say, I strongly recommend that you reach out to your regional account manager and they can go ahead and work with you and make that happen. We did have a question here from Leslie about Sony's plans to enter into the laser ultra short throw market. So, Leslie, that's a good question. We do have some short throw options in our projectors, in our projector lineup. But if you're asking specifically about ultra short throw, we continue to listen to the voice of our customers in terms of ultra short throw projection solutions. And our product planning teams are still exploring how best to serve our customers with their ultra short throw needs. So I would say that for right now, there's not a solution that's currently available, but please stay tuned and please keep an eye on all of the Sony resources should something become available. Chrissy, let me check our question panel one last time to see if there are any further questions. And there was just one here, and it's from Michael, who asks, can you give a little more detail on the box cameras versus the PTZ camera solutions?
Yes, I can. I was just going to spin around and grab. You can kind of see one of them. Whoops. Right there. Boop. That is our SRGXB25. So it has a bit of a further zoom. The XP1 does not have a optical zoom. It has a digital zoom. So if you're able to, push into your raster, you can move it around a little bit, but it's not really meant for that. It's meant to get that wide shot. So think about those two. Box camera, they're in a box. They do not do PTZ, and they are just meant to shoot straight and capture what's right in front of them. They're really not meant to have much motion or preset changes. A lot of people use them for the handwriting extraction because they want to keep that Sony ecosystem. So they'll do like an SRGX 400 and an XP1 with their edge. And then PTZ, then therefore PTZ versus box. PTZ has the motors, the dome, the control, the presets. Both are network controllable and VSCO over IP. However, the real main difference is not only their chassis, but also the fact that the boxes are just meant to shoot point of view, and the PTZ can really go that, I think it's 355 degrees around, and then that tilt being 90 degrees. So, and lots of zoom on those PTZs. But that's what I would right off the bat just say about those. As far as mounting goes, both of them are flippable. So you can have the PTZ as it is, or you can flip it upside down, and then the box camera can do the same thing, mount it straight up, or it can be flipped upside down as well.
Okay, great. And I'm just checking the question panel for one last time. And there is one from Jacques. And he asks, can you quickly review the Edge Analytics features and functions one more time?
Yeah, I said that quite fast earlier. I can definitely go through that. So the Edge Analytics system is the box that is basically acting as a brain for the camera to do one of 5 features. And you want to think about it as an edge per feature, except for you can do handwriting extraction and PTZ auto tracking out of one box. The others you would need another box for. And so the first one would be PTZ auto tracking. Second is handwriting extraction. Third is chroma key CG overlay. Fourth is focus area cropping. And the last is close-up by gesture. Close-up by gesture is going to give you the option to point one of those POV cameras even at your audience, and it will give you a wide shot. And then as soon as somebody stands up, aka gestures, it gives a close-up of them, so a bust shot of them while they ask their question. When they sit back down, it'll snap back to a wide shot. So it's interactive, or I should say forward thinking, and it's paying attention to what your audience is doing. Might be helpful if you're wanting to engage your audience in your hybrid environment for the far end, seeing who's actually asking the question. And then moving up the list is focus area cropping. It does very similar things to the PTZ auto tracking. However, it offers 2 outputs, and it's a digital track. So it's not using the motors. It's actually using your raster and saying, hey, 4K camera, I am going to just follow the presenter around that raster. So you do want a 4K camera for that. At least we highly recommend it. That way your close-up and your tracking shot is still, high resolution. And then coming back up to chroma keyless CG overlay, say that 5 times fast. I should get a medal. You have the option to turn any space. I could even turn what you're looking at right now, cover up all that and just put myself immediately into a broadcast kind of space, or a library space, or a jungle, whatever you want to put. I think Kiana has an option of her in the Millennial Falcon somewhere, which is pretty funny. And there is then our handwriting extraction, which is shooting the whiteboard or the blackboard, taking the text off of it and putting in a digital overlay in front of the presenter, which you can change the opacity for. And that basically takes the text off the whiteboard that maybe a far end hybrid person could not see because they're not in the room. And then our flagship license, which is that PTZ Auto Tracking, taking the ability of needing somebody to track somebody in the room out, and it does that for you. So those are the 5 license features. And again, if you ever wanted a demo of that, I can do that virtually. Just send me an email and I'll get you connected.
That's great, Chrissy. And in our final minute, we're right at time. So I want to thank everyone who joined us today. As always, we know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it a little bit of it with Sony every couple of weeks. Again, check the links in the chat and go back. And I encourage everyone to take a look at the first 2 sessions in this series if you missed any of it. And just a reminder that in 2 weeks, on April 12th, our next session will be on optimizing your remote communications. So we look forward to seeing everyone then. I wish everyone a safe and profitable day, and we'll say goodbye for now. Take care, everyone.